Our service begins with the lighting of the Shabbat candles, page 120. And I'll ask Iris, and I know she invited Cassie to join her, and anyone else who would like to join her. Page 120. Oh, okay.
Are you going to do it? Yes. I can see you. Oh, no. You can do it great. I can see it. It's pitiful and capable.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them. Burn on. It's green. It's on. Yeah, it is. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we by our lives give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. This was my name. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tiganu l'hadlekner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu l'hadlikner shel
Let us join together in prayer, page 126. Together, I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. Let us turn now to page 128 and join in the singing of Yedid Nefesh, the heart's delight towards God. Page 128.
Eretz
Our service continues now with the Chatzi Kaddish, page 144. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah. Bi'olamo divrach yidutei v'yamlich malachutei v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'gala uvizman kariv v'meru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam ulal me'almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'yitroman v'yitnasei v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shemei dekudusha berichu leila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran bi'alma v'meru amen. Please rise and let us join in reading the prelude to the Baruch Hu, very bottom of page 145, and then continuing on page 146. Entrances to Holiness. Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time. Even as unlikely times and through unlikely places, there is no place on earth without the presence. Page 146, the Baruch Hu. You may be seated. The prayer Hama'ariv Aravim on page 148 and page 149 focuses on the Ma'aseh Bereshit. One of the beautiful acts of creation is the creation of time, and how we are able to move from one period of time into a sacred period of time, and how we are able to determine that by the heavens that are above and the order in which that occurs in such a beautiful fashion. And so Shabbat is the recognition of the certain order that comes and the certain laws that we have discerned with respect to time, moving from ordinary time of Friday to the sacred time of Shabbat. And the way we do that is through observing the sun and through the twilight that leads into the new day, Vayihi Erev, Vayihi Boker. There was evening and there was morning. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings about the evening and as a result, the Shabbat. And with nature, we develop a sense of law, the law that we consider to be moral laws that we consider to be from the divine, whether divinely inspired or whether we consider this to be from God. We believe that just as there is some sense of order to the world that we live in nature, there is also an orderliness to life. And we see that as God's eternal love for us by giving us the Torah and its timely teachings. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Let us join now in a reading on page 151, As You Taught Torah. Together, as you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, teach me Torah too. In mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me, did you mean the struggle for me too? Do not let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, who loves his people Israel through Torah. Please rise for the Shema, page 152.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Page 154, the Via Hafta.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבך וכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם המוזזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתיכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
And together, on page 154, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Take to heart these instructions with which I charge you this day. Impress them upon your children. Recite them when you stay at home and when you are away, when you lie down and when you get up. Bind them as a sign on your hand and let them serve as a symbol on your forehead. Inscribe them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Thus you shall remember to observe all my commandments and to be holy to your God. I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am Adonai your God. You may be seated. Our service continues now with the singing of the Mi Chamocha on page 158.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Yalalai, 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 yalalai,
Please rise for the Vishamru on page 162. the tefillah, beginning on page 164. Adonai, open up our lips so that our mouths may declare your praise. We continue in silent meditation, page 172 through page 180, or in your own personal prayers. Shabbat shalom to everyone. Avraham, or Abraham, is now the father of many nations. And God discloses the Almighty's plan to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah because the suffering caused by so much evil has reached the heavens. In this encounter, we see Abraham imploring God not to destroy these cities because of the few righteous that dwell within their borders. However, there are less than 10, and God destroys Sodom and Gomorrah, though God spares Abraham's nephew Lot and his family. We see in this story a reflection of what was foreshadowed earlier in the story of Cain and Abel. Cain and Abel both offer sacrifices unto the Lord, and God accepts Abel's offering but rejects Cain. The latter is crestfallen, and in the heat of an argument, Cain kills Abel. God gently inquires of Cain, "Where is your brother?" And Cain responds, "Ani lo yadati hashomer achi anochi." I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? And God punishes Cain as a result of having committed fratricide. Abraham's response to Sodom and Gomorrah is an affirmative answer to Cain's rhetorical question. Abraham's underlying response to God is, yes, we are our brothers and sisters' keeper. If an injustice, suffering, or hardship befalls another human being, we are to be watchful, caring, and help wherever and whenever possible. This ethic is a core tenet of Reform Judaism. As Abraham is our forefather, we follow his teaching. Yes, we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. But let us now turn to the more difficult question. To what extent are we responsible for the welfare, safety, and life of others? It's not altogether clear on this question, for all Abraham does is argue. And we are left with the question, is that enough? Rhetorically, did Abraham bring his tent, his people, his family to Sodom and Gomorrah to dwell there so that there could be 10 righteous people and that God and Abraham had agreed to? Abraham's limited conduct, his argument with God, raises the more complex question of to what extent are we responsible to watch out for the welfare of others? Now, our sages were cognizant of this issue. And in the context of who is a righteous person and who is an evil person, they express the following. The evil individual believes that what is mine, and what is yours is mine. The righteous person says, what is yours, and what is mine is yours. The average person states, what is yours, and what is mine is mine. But then this teaching concludes with the following. Some say that this latter ethos, that what is yours, and what is mine is mine, was indeed the ethical standard of Sodom and Gomorrah. This last teaching, by the language, there are those who say, indicates that not everyone agreed with the last part of this section found in Pirkei Avot. I observed this phenomenon when I was in Eastern Europe restoring Jewish cemeteries. When we interviewed villagers who had lived through this periods, they all felt sad for their neighboring Jews marching to their deaths, and it was sincere. And their Christian neighbors, the ones who we interviewed, knew that they were not coming back. But they never felt motivated to intervene. Yes, there were righteous Gentiles, but the vast majority did nothing. Their lack of intervention, from what I could discern from talking to them, in more than one village, by the way, this was over the course of 17 such trips, was because they viewed the Jewish community as separate from their own. There was like an imaginary line of difference between the Jewish part of the village and the dominant Christian village. And for the most part, their intersection was economic, not social. My brother and sister is my Christian neighbor, not the Jewish one with whom I only do business and who lives in the Jewish section of the village. Instead, Christian communities were not willing to risk their lives for the welfare of their Jewish counterparts. To that extent, they were not their brothers or sisters' keepers. Many missed the Jews, but they were not willing to place their lives on the line to save Jews. An extreme example, to be sure. How many of us could say that were the situation reversed, would we intervene at the risk of our own safety, the safety of our family and our community, to save the lives of others whose lives were in jeopardy? And I don't have an answer to that question. And I'm not entirely sure that the Torah does as well. We read the beginning narratives of Genesis as being universal. However, as the Torah narrative progresses, it becomes an increasingly Jewish document. The commandments of the Torah apply to the children of Israel. Moreover, we are to observe them in the land of our inheritance, Eretz Yisrael. Only when we became accepted in the so-called enlightened societies of Europe did we begin to assert the prophetic and Torahitic teachings as universal principles for all of humankind. Commandments and ethical principles of our tradition before that time applied only to Jewish communities with a few exceptions, such as the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach, the 7 commandments of the children of Noach. And as Reformed Judaism took root in the United States, our sense of the universality of our faith broadened. Micah's pronouncement of God seeking to find within us only that we love justice, do acts of loving kindness, and walk humbly before God became a clarion call from American Jewish pulpits. We now understood Isaiah's prophetic message, read on Yom Kippur to feed the hungry, to clothe the naked, as applicable to the broader American culture and, by extension, all of humanity. This was a new development. Isaiah lived in Eretz Yisrael. When he wrote these words, when he preached these words, it's an open question as to whether he saw them as being universally applicable. In our own country, our response to, quote, "Are we our brothers and sisters' keepers?" has been one of ambiguity, not one of clarity. On the positive side, we reflect our love for the elderly in Medicare and Social Security. It's not what is mine and what is yours. We recognize that there is a greater good towards society that all of us must contribute towards. For those who are physically unable to work due to a disability, there is Social Security disability. We don't turn people away from the hospital because they have no insurance. If one is unemployed, there is unemployment insurance and welfare to be of some assistance. But our response to other society ills that affect some groups disproportionately has been ambiguous. Just as it was in World War II, there were economic preservation concerns in communities, North and South, that were muted. What could have been more vibrant, what could have been a more vibrant and clear outcry? Some rightfully argue that American virtues of self-reliance, freedom, and individualism also place restrictive limitations on committing ourselves more fully to the principle that we are our brother's keeper. A perfect example is our nation's divide over the COVID-19 vaccination. According to the most recent reports, in Alabama, only 41% of our population is fully vaccinated. Of course, the reasons are complex, but it also reflects that as a society, we may not be fully committed to the principles that we are our brother's keeper as we might think that we are. It is an unsettling question, to be sure. As much as I love Abraham's argument with God, and it's the first of such argument, so it's a question of our progress as human beings. Still, his response is only an intellectual and a spiritual one. Abraham did not put his life on the line to save those inhabitants except for his extended family. Only a few Gentiles intervened in the Holocaust, while the vast majority cared only for their own family's survival. In our country, we too have never fully committed to responding to Cain's response, despite our enormous collective wealth. A part of the human soul that remains uncommitted to the soul of others all exists within each of us, myself included. I do believe that we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. And like Abraham, we must always argue that righteousness will triumph over evil. However, let us work towards that part of our individual and collective souls so that when God inquires of us, where is your brother and where is your sister, we can say with a full heart, our brothers and our sisters are right next to us. We are watching over them as they are watching over us. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. Please rise for the Kiddush and the Motzi. Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagofen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu. V'shabbat kadsho b'yava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh zecher l'tziat mitzrayim ki vanu v'acharta v'otanu kidashta Mikomim v'shabbat kadshecha v'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. I want to thank the Ginsburg for donating the challah for this evening. Thank you.
Rabbi Rouse.
Huh?
Rabbi Rouse.
I will.
You may be seated. We continue now with the Mishaberach prayer, page 371.
Please join in with me. May the source of strength, bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We pray for the healing of Bettina Prager, Rhoda Bennett, Paul Bradley, Harold Fink, Charmaine Mosier, Bruce Mosier, Mark Schoenfeld, and Mark Siegel. I'll ask the people on Zoom to unmute themselves and recite those in need of healing.
Jennifer Sundberg,
We now turn to the congregation. Please rise now for the Olean, page 586. You may be seated. This week, we observed the yahrzeits of Carolyn Brown, Sherelle Hoffman Green, Sue Magnus, Alice Tubiana, Arthur Heinrich, Susan Perlman, Sally Zell, and Malvine Goldstein. Is there anyone observing a yahrzeit who they wish to remember at this time? Thank you. Ask those on Zoom to unmute themselves.
Lawrence LeMay.
In solemn testimony to that unbroken faith which links generations one to another, let those who mourn now rise and join in the recitation of the Kaddish for mourners and those observing yahrzeit, those whose tradition it is to join in its recitation. Page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash meraba v'alma divrachi rute v'amlich malchute v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv imru amen. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא. ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלל שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, תאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. May God, who establisheth peace unto the heavens, grant peace and comfort in the hearts of all who mourn, and let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Just a few announcements. There is a board meeting next Monday at 5:30, and that's by Zoom, I believe. Is that correct? Zoom. Thank you. And then there's Torah study once again on Wednesday at 5:30. Please look at the high notes as well as the bulletin that's to come out shortly. There's a number of Federation events that I think will be of interest that begin to occur around the beginning of November. So be watchful for that. We'll have more announcements on that next week as November approaches. Anyone have any other announcements or community announcements need to be made?
Veterans Day, November 7th.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that next week, right. There's Veterans Day, and there'll be a service at the cemetery at, I believe it's 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. We are going to conclude our service with the singing in English, except for the chorus. We're going to sing the chorus in English and in Hebrew, so those that want to sing it in Hebrew can do that. And you want to do the Hebrew? Oh, okay, we'll do the Hebrew, great. Page 600, there was a debate, because most of it will be done in English, whether we should do the chorus in Hebrew, and the Hebrew prevailed. Page 661, Yerushalayim Shel Zahav.
Trees that stand in silence upon the hills of time, to hear the voices of the city as bells of evening chime. The shofar sounding from the temple to call the world to prayer. The shepherd pauses in the valley, and peace is everywhere. Yerushalayim sheze'av, v'shenei chosed v'shelor, alolecho she'irayich, ani kinor. Yerushalayim sheze'av, v'shenei chosed v'shelor, alolecho she'irayich, ani kinor. And far away beyond the desert, 1,000 suns will glow. We shall be going to the Jordan by way of Jericho. My simple voice cannot acclaim thee, too weak the words I choose. Jerusalem, if I get thee, may my right hand its cunning loose. Yerushalayim sheze'av, v'shenei chosed v'shelor, alolecho she'irayich, ani kinor. Yerushalayim sheze'av, v'shenei
Shabbat Shalom. Before we conclude, we want to welcome Shirley, James, Mel, and Odette Sternberg, Harold and Emily Fink, Phyllis Feibelman, Elaine and Ron, the Gandlers, the Friedlanders, the Millers, Ann Zelniker, Jonathan Fratkin, Charmaine Mosier, Marion Birkin, and Ann Miller. And we also want to thank once again our Christopher and Molly and Andy for all your wonderful support and for making these services so beautiful and so welcoming. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.